What was your holy crap I live in the future moment? This happened around 2 weeks ago. I was looking at buying apartments, so I went to see how much a brand new one currently on production would cost. Anyway, they gave me the rundown, told me the prices, then asked if I wanted to walk around. Walk around, I ask. Yes, if you follow me downstairs we have something new for customers to try. They took me into a basement room of their office and stuck a freaking Oculus onto my head and said I can walk around their 3D representation of their new apartment complex. They was the first time I used one and it was freaking amazing. When I picked up my phone to leave the house and had an alert from Google telling me an estimated time for arrival at my destination, I hadn't even Googled anything that morning. It knows things. I alternate between finding it really convenient and being really creeped out. It reminded me of my son's birthday next week. He hasn't even been born yet. Using the Google Translate app that uses your camera to live translate the image. It blew my mind. I had to show people for 10 minutes. We had a Chinese menu and in real time the app translated the words on the screen into the same color and a similar font. And it wasn't just a close guess or translating some words, it was a bang-on translation of everything. Yes, this app blew my mind. I saw a video of someone using it and thought it was just some special effects concept video. I googled the name of it to find out more about it and the Play Store link came up. It completely blew my freaking mind. We're very close to headsets that will instantly translate, allowing two people to have a real-time conversation in two different languages. This is kind of old, but when for the first time everything in the public restroom was automated. I took a crap and the toilet flushed for me. I went to wash my hands and the water came out for me, as did the soap dispenser. I go to dry my hands and the paper towel came down for me. Then I had to open the door myself like some kind of Luddite. Once in a very fancy hotel room in Tokyo, I went to use the John. I walked up to it to pee and the seat raised automatically. I still have no idea how it's new. Flat screen TVs. When I was in high school, I had a teacher who told us that there would one day be televisions that you could hang on the wall like a picture. Pretty impressive for a prediction that was made 30 years ago. When they replaced my knee. Seriously, I'm only 50, but had a degenerative knee due to a football injury. Pain had gotten so bad that I was avoiding any activity. In my 30s I ran marathons and triathlons. 100 years ago I would basically have begun the steady decline to my likely death in 10-15 years. Instead, I went to a hospital. The fricking replaced my knee and sent me home the next day. 4 months later and I am biking 300 miles a month and doing bicycle time trials. Seriously, my life has been changed in an almost miraculous fashion. Science fricking rocks. So when I was little I dreamed of having a TV I could take with me everywhere. I was so excited to get one of those handheld TVs that had screen that was about 3 inches x 2 inches and a housing the size of a large walkie-talkie. I would take it on car trip and try to use the long antenna to pick up a station for a few moments when passing through a populated area. It was glorious. And now, my childhood dream has come true. As long as I have Wi-Fi I can pretty much watch anything I want wherever I am in the world. It's freaking amazing. I curl up around my iPad at night as it is tucked closely beside me watching Netflix. And if I get tired of laying on that side, no problem. I can just roll over and take the TV with me. Such an amazing world we live in. My dream too. When my grandfather was born in the early 1900s we didn't know galaxies existed. When my dad was born in 1935 we had just learned about cosmic radio waves, but the radio telescope had not been built until 1937. I was born in 1962, 3 years before Penzias and Wilson would discover the CMB radiation. My daughter was born in 1992, right about when the first extrasolar planet was detected. And now we're finding them at an amazing clip and talking about detecting weather on other planets and measuring their atmospheric chemistry. I'm just a little younger than you. My grandfather rode from Ohio to California as an infant, in a covered wagon, and yet I be about the 5+ hour flight to the west coast. My mother remembers a time before TV. I remember NBC's logo saying, "This show in color, etc etc. You were there, you get it." Streaming is kind of that way for me. but I was born in 1970. I grew up with computers, but pretty much everything about the tech age still makes me smile. Not because I am old, but because I really believed it would happen. Micro SD cards blow me away every time. More storage than my first computer was capable of getting from a hard drive. The first time I had a video call with my wife while we were both walking around the city. I was in Montreal, she was in Seoul. Perfectly clear, no lag, video call around the world. Right now, thanks for reminding me, written on my phone which functions as a camera, light source, encyclopedia dictionary, TV, pee dispensary, banking device, writing tool, distance gauge, metal detector, level, personal trainer, Robotics, agenda, stereo, video recorder, alarm clock, gaming system, dating coach, audiobook library, and that's just the apps I use. I took BART train to San Francisco International Airport. After riding on the 10-car raised rail, I switched to an automated train that is raised and loops around the airport to all the terminals. Looking out the window, one of the big international jets was sitting at one of the terminals. It was huge. I'm convinced the only reason we don't feel like we are in the future more often is because it's not nearly as clean as we thought it would be. Flying a plane. Also flying in a plane, but especially flying it yourself. Humans have been on the planet for 200,000 years, and for only 100 of those years has man been able to fly. That's 0.05% of human history. How many people over the course of history looked enviously at birds in the sky and thought, I want to do that? It's pretty amazing. Even more mind-blowing, the first man to take flight and the first man to step on the moon were alive at the same time. Neil Armstrong was 17 years old when Orville Wright died. I remember as a kid watching the Jetsons and thinking how impossible it was to have a device that easily allows you to call someone and see their face at the same time. One day I finished a Skype call and was suddenly hit with the realization of how far we had come. Also, if you have a Roomba, it's like having half a Rosie. As I wait for my HTC virtual reality headset to arrive, I realize that I've been waiting for it for 25 years, and it's finally here. I have one. The future is here. It is truly amazing. Play the budget cuts demo after the lab. When I watched my 13-year-old son watch The Matrix for the first time, the scene where a helicopter pilot program is uploaded directly to the character almost instantly. My son, YouTube will figure out how to do that before I'm in college. Until he said that, I honestly had never given any thought to just how much information is constantly available to anyone who wants to learn a new skill. I'm not giving fricking YouTube access to inject information into my brain. Just the other day playing CS, Go Online, it suddenly occurred to me how incredibly fast our computers are communicating with each other, syncing our mouse movements and keystrokes within fractions of a second, from hundreds and even thousands of miles away from each other, to create a virtual world where we shoot guns at each other. And some 10-year-old is using this incredible piece of technology to scream through my speakers that he fricked my mom. Or some C is blaring crappy trance music. It was 10 or 12 years ago. Husband and I are sitting in our basement den. He's in his spot and I'm in mine. We have our laptops open and are playing games against people online while watching a TV show we'd DVR'd the night before. My phone chimed. It was my teenage daughter texting from her bedroom upstairs to ask when and what dinner was going to be. I responded to her text, looked at my husband and said, "We're the fricking Jetsons." He nodded, and we both went back to our games. I was driving down the highway near an airport and saw a plane rise from beyond the tree line ahead of all the cars on the road. Because of this image, it suddenly occurred to me how amazing our technology is. For a single moment I saw our time as someone from hundreds of years ago would see it. Airports always make me feel like this. The fact that we can make these big metal tubes full of people lift off the ground and fly hundreds or even thousands of miles is insane. After staying in a third world country for a couple years, going back to a first world country is like stepping into a time machine. The internet is so much faster. New technologies are ubiquitous now. Slang is different and you are out of date with pop culture unless you happen to have spent so much of your time on the internet. which you can't because it's so slow. Everything is so new and nice and not beaten down. It makes you appreciate everything that much more. When I realized I can get pretty much anything I want from my phone while in bed. Hungry? Order a pizza. Single? Get on Tinder, Bumble. Need a job? Open Indeed, LinkedIn. Need a suit for your date interview? Order one on Amazon. Broke? Have someone quick pay you on the Chase app. I'm hard pressed to think of something you can't get from your phone these days. Please detail this quick pay. I need money too. Mine probably is a bit less of a moment for most people. I flew to Ireland with my family and my grandparents. My grandmother had been afraid of flying her whole life and had never flown, but always wanted to go back to Ireland before she passed. She had been diagnosed with cancer and got a bit of a frigid attitude. I was sitting next to her. She was next to the window. I was sitting there relaxing, listening to music, getting ready for takeoff when she taps me on the shoulder and asks if I could play a song and let her listen to music as we take off so she can calm down. She makes her request, so I put on some Louis Armstrong, hand her my headphones and sit back. We start to take off, maybe a few hundred feet off the ground, and I look over and she's crying, so I hold her hand and she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I'm not scared. I'm just amazed." At that moment it hit me. Here is this 95-year-old woman, born in 1910, who witnessed 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and an unimaginable spread of technological innovation, sitting in a metal tube flying through air that instinct tells us is made of nothing, listening to her favorite musician, watching the earth fall slowly away, heading back to her homeland that she left on a boat. Now whenever I fly, or even look up at an airplane crossing the sky, it hits me how incredible that really is. There is internet access in cars. Leisure space travel is a developing field. We can power cars with fuel produced by algae. When I got my very first smartphone, with a touch screen, it still amazes me to this day that you touch a screen and you can make stuff happen. When I realized that we are closer to the year 2030 than to the year 2000. I was driving home at night when I saw 3 lights appear in the sky in a triangle pattern. It moved fast, and then straight down, too fast for an aircraft. I waited to hear the helicopter crash, but nothing. Then I thought, OMG, what the heck was that? A UFO. WTF. And then it dawned on me, it was a drone. I felt like a cave person. When I bought my laptop, touchscreens on everything, it was amazing. I hadn't been in a computer store for 6 years, so my idea of what was current was a few years out of date. I was disappointed that they don't seem to have 3D anymore, but got the Surface Book and I'm still amazed at how it's so powerful and yet so thin and light it can be a tablet too. The thing I'm typing this message on while waiting for the lady to call my number so I can get my food has more computing power than the ships that took men to the moon. And yet we won't go back to the fricking moon. This concept always bothered me. It's not the computing power that got us to the moon, it's the people, ingenuity, and rockets. Playing Spotify for the first time on my phone. As a 90s kid, I'm still in awe at the fact that I have access to an entire music store worth of music on my phone for only $10 a month. I used to buy a ton of tapes and CDs and $10 was the price of one CD on clearance or a regular priced cassette tape. Nice try, Spotify. I'm only 19, so not a lot has blown me away so far, but I remember watching the Microsoft presentation of their HoloLens. Seeing Minecraft rise from the table actually blew my mind. Holograms is something I always thought was distant future, and while this isn't how holograms are envisioned in sci-fi, it's close enough. I saw a 3-4-year-old child just a week ago. He was in a shopping mall and desperately slapping, prodding, and tapping a digital billboard, and growing increasingly frustrated when his touches weren't being registered. It was a non-touch screen. I watched him for 30 seconds, and in my mind was, oh crap, this is the future. This happened a year or so ago, maybe longer. I was walking into a McDonald's and noticed a guy on his iPhone using sign language with a person on the other end. We have made phones for the deaf and that is not even the intended function of the device. 2 things. social rather than technical, and related. 1. I married my partner last summer after 20 years together, in Georgia. Never thought that would happen in my lifetime. I'm still amazed. 2. My nephew came home from school one day and told my sister what he'd learned about the Matthew Shepard murder. He was absolutely aghast and outraged. They killed him just because he was gay in the same "can you believe this" tone that I would have had after learning about the Holocaust. It was literally unbelievable and completely shocking to him that this could happen. The Shepard murder happened in 1998. He was born in 2000. The size of data storage. There are micro USB sticks the size of your fingertip that hold 150 plus gigabytes. You look at pictures of some of the first computers, one entire room was mere kilobytes. I'm an operating room nurse, circulator. A few days ago I was watching a robotic surgery while the surgeon was controlling the procedure from 10 feet away from the patient. Bray Wyatt's theme song was streaming on someone's iPhone during this time. The OR can be a weird place. This will get buried but I don't care. My kid said he needed to play an online game at a certain time because he had arranged to get together with a group. I said okay, it was his normal game time, and asked what his friends' names are. He gave me a couple, he added, except this one guy. I can't pronounce his name. He lives in India. My toilet clogged and I went to Walmart to get an auger. Think about it. I have a designated room for defecating, in a specific item which captures and disposes of my waste with next to zero effort on my part. Then, when it experienced an error, I got in my 2-ton hunk of steel and listened to artificial sound transmitted through wireless internet processed by satellites in space. Then I went to a store which is literally every single thing I could reasonably need to survive to have this minor issue fixed in less than an hour. Then I bought a tool created by a company whose sole existence is creating tools to unclog these mysterious poop-eating machines. Because we live in a system where people can make living wages off of such niche items and don't have to farm for their daily sustenance. This was a while ago, obviously, but the first time I played a Nintendo 64 blew me away in a way no interaction with any technology had done before or since. Having grown up on the NES, SNES and Genesis, the transition to true 3D, especially since it came at a period in my life where I was growing bored with video games, was like nothing I had ever experienced before. I haven't had a chance to try any of the new VR goggles yet, but I've heard some people say it was a similar experience for them. Not quite, but almost 10 years ago, I was riding passenger on a drive to Acadia National Park. I get a call from my mother. The email isn't working. The App Store had recently come out for iOS and I had already purchased a VNC app, but hadn't used it. I put mom on speakerphone, opened Mocha VNC, set it up with mom's DNS info, took control of her Mac from the touchscreen of my phone, fixed her settings and had her back in business. 60 miles an hour down a highway in Maine, controlling a computer in Boston, from the same device I was using to simultaneously conduct a phone conversation. And it all went smoothly. After I hung up, I realized the freaking magic of what had just happened and proceeded to enjoy the following week in nature. People are people. We could pull anyone from any time and plop them right here, and in 2 weeks they would be complaining about their internet speed or that someone is kicking the back of their seat on a 787. I went to an ice cream shop yesterday. Every cash register was a tablet. I paid with a phone, basically a pocketable computer, and when they ran out of a flavor the menu instantly changed. Then they went and made my ice cream with liquid nitrogen. 10/10, the future is awesome. No one particular moment. I suppose as we increasingly utilize Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and already existing smart technologies to increasingly link things together, it makes life more convenient. Cloud data storage systems, Kivo House Key, Uber, streaming services, credit card, and all other loyalty cards on phone now, Apple TV, etc. But kids born after 2000 will have no understanding of life before smart technology, so they may not feel like they're living in the future. They'll never know what it was like to pay bills at a bank, or telephone banking, or the difficulty of trying to get a hold of someone with house phones, the art of table conversation, or the struggle of using physical books to study or do research. Technology hasn't ended here, you know. When I needed to recharge my cigarette, but I couldn't because I was already recharging my book, the future is ridiculous. That sounds like our shower thoughts. Oh wait. By hitting a single button on my phone, I can put any video stream movie on my TV wirelessly with no effort. The Chromecast is insanely cool when you think about it. When I was watching Fireman Sam with my kids, and they had a drone, it wasn't even made a big deal of, they just had one. Popped a tire on my bike on the way home the other day. 3 hours later I had a new tire, new tubes, milk and eggs, all from Amazon now. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.